this is going to be a first for my channel, as I've never posted anything like this before. Everything on my account right now is gaming and art stuff. So, like, if this is your first introduction to my channel, I don't really make content like this, but I do plan to make more in the future. And if you're like, well, what is the new content? It's rant videos. Yay! I know that this is a dead genre, and the only people who are popular from this type of content are people who, one, have something interesting to talk about, which I don't. I'm literally just going to talk about things that interest me specifically, and two, people who became popular because of this content in, like, 2017. But, like, I'm still mentally in 2017, so why not let my content reflect that? If you clicked on this video for an in-depth essay on the rise and downfall of Bluey Capsules, don't watch this video. That's not going to be what this is. And I'm pretty sure people have already made videos like that are much more interesting than the complaints I have to make. I know the title of this video is What Happened to Bluey Capsules, but I'm not really trying to answer that question. If you want to know, they got canceled. That's it. They got fairly popular in 2021 to 2022, and then they got canceled for a multitude of reasons. If you're asking yourself, what is Bluey Capsules? I wonder why you're still watching this video, but I will answer that. If you were on the internet at all during the release of Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, you were absolutely privy to the giant explosion of the FNAF fandom, whether you were in the fandom or not. In 2021, the FNAF fandom was huge. Because of this, it brought attention to Five Nights at Freddy's fan content, which included the 2020 webcomic Bluey Capsules. Bluey Capsules was a webcomic essentially taking the piss out of Five Nights at Freddy's. It wasn't a satire, it was just taking the characters from FNAF and making them do stupid stuff for shits and giggles. As the comic went on, however, it progressively became more of a serious retelling of the FNAF lore. While it used to be a comic where a sickly-skinned William Afton forced his son Michael Afton to do a handstand for hours, then became a genuine horror about childhood trauma and childhood murder. While I don't believe it ever took itself completely seriously, it became very close to in its dying days. Currently sitting at 78,000 followers, the Bluey Capsules Twitter account remains up, a shell of its former self. And while I do see some fans of the webcomic on very rare occasions, it is nowhere near the height of popularity it had in 2022. Also, speaking of being a shell of its former self, so is Social Blade. I checked the website to see if I could find an overview of Bluey Capsules followers' gains and losses, but their Twitter function literally doesn't work anymore. But anyways, for the longest time, I never knew why Bluey Capsules was cancelled. In 2022, when I was a huge fan of it, I just accepted it. I just accepted that it was gone. I accepted their final Twitter post stating how it was cancelled. They didn't want it to continue at all, and many of the artists of that series, at least at the time, harbored many bad memories for it. Because I was woke and understanding. But now, I'm dark woke. And after finally reading the call-out document, which I didn't even know existed until I randomly found myself scrolling on the Bluey Capsules fandom wiki, I have some things to say about it. Later, while going through my old private messages from the time, I found out I did actually know what was going on and why it got cancelled, but I guess I forgot. Though I can say for certain that the first time I actually saw the call-out document was very recently. This is not to say that I don't believe it should have been cancelled, or that my favorite comic ever was herded off by evil leftists and their sick, twisted cancel culture. No. I am a leftist, and this comic deserved its cancellation. Reese, the creator of Bluey Capsules, overworked his artist and was a real asshole. As the call-out explains,
Reese is, to put it aptly, incredibly manipulative, abusive, and bigoted. The teen has dealt with large amounts of guilt-tripping, love-bombing, verbal harassment, and other abuse tactics, as well as dealing with their bigotry both in the comic and to the people they interact with.
However, this is the only valid part I find about the call-out document, the personal accounts of Reese being a bad person. Since the beginning of the call-out document starts with it, I will as well. Anti-Semitism, the bigotry against Jewish people. As a tangent before I begin talking about this, I've noticed a stark increase of anti-Semitism due to the Israel-Palestine conflict being on everyone's mind currently. This is not okay. Israel has a majority Jewish population, but their bigotry does not represent the entire population of Jewish people. Jewish people exist outside of Israel, many of which have come out against Israel, like normal people. And even then, although there are many bigoted Israelis, not every single Israeli is bigoted. Say fuck you to Israel, not fuck you to Jewish people. Anyway, I'm going to handle this segment lightly, because I'm not a Jewish person, and if you are a Jewish person and feel differently, that is completely valid. I'm just going to be handling this as objectively as possible. The first thing mentioned in the Bluey Capsules call-out document is this. As the document states, this image is being accused of anti-Semitism for the depiction of a character having green skin and horns. It states that these are common occurrences in anti-Semitic caricatures. Now, I'm not an anti-Semitic caricature expert, but from the mod amount of research I did in preparation for this segment, which included scouring many different websites for papers of anti Semitic art to see if this was true. I'm not very sure about this one. A common caricature of Jewish people, as you may already know, is the happy merchant, who sports a large nose, hunched back, scheming hands, and a shit-eating grin. While none of these attributes appear in this character's design, sans maybe the shit-eating grin, that doesn't necessarily negate potential anti-Semitism. Other anti-Semitic depictions of Jewish people include beastly, inhuman creatures, which I feel falls more under this character's category, with her green skin and devil horns. However, I believe that anti-Semitism must include intent, and they never make out this character to be evil or hoard any common Jewish stereotypes. Also, my final point, I'm not even sure that this character is Jewish. Nowhere on the wiki, which was partly run by the Bluey Capsules team itself, is it stated that she is Jewish, nor on the call-out document. Characters who are not specifically Jewish can display anti-Semitic caricature-like attributes. For example, the villagers from Minecraft, which I also chalk up to the creator and, again, intent. However, green skin and horns is not a common anti-Semitic caricature. She looks like a goblin or some other fantasy creature. And other than the J.K. Rowling depiction, who we already know is evil, goblins are generally not meant to be anti-Semitic and could potentially represent this character's personality, as child characters are sometimes affectionately referred to as goblins for being chaotic, though it is a cringe millennial thing. The next thing mentioned in the call-out document is the character Vincent, who they believe displays anti-Semitic stereotypes. This point I feel much stronger about, whether that be because this character was one of my favorites, or because I hold an attachment to the character due to my affiliation with the Roborica character Vincent, which this character is based on. And also, where I get my name. In the comic, this character is Jewish. It's confirmed through the wiki, the comic, and Ask posts, and even on the call-out document itself. And for the first point, they note that in a Tumblr Ask blog-esque post, in which Bluey Capsules account asked questions from their community about the comic, they made the Vincent character steal mass amounts of candy from Walmart, and this is anti-Semitic because it's depicting the character as
greedy, trying to steal and hoard any sort of wealth they can get their hands on.
What? In the page, you can very obviously see the intent of it being funny and silly. Vincent's entire purpose throughout the series is to be a joke character. He's a troll. Like, genuinely, what is he greedy for? It's candy. It's candy from Walmart that he's giving to his brother's children because William Afton is a terrible father. He's not hoarding wealth. I understand that this character is one of the only Jewish characters in the comic, but that doesn't make anything bad he does an inherent criticism of Jewish people. And like, is what he's doing really that bad? He's getting candy for abused children. That's epic. The call-out then goes on to mention Reese's handling of the situation once they started to receive pushback from the audience.
Behind the scenes, Reese was pressuring members of the comic to agree with them that Vincent's portrayal was not anti-Semitic at all. They were constantly searching for reassurance from Jewish members of the team, essentially tokenizing them.
This is bad. What's not bad is making a silly character do silly things. The call-out explicitly states that the Bluey Capsules team received
a lot of backlash
when Reese, or Billy227 in the screenshot, only says someone, clearly implying that it was just one person who was upset. I'm further proven by the other screenshots when Reese says this kid. Assumedly, the person they were talking about used its pronouns, and Reese uses those to refer to them as a singular. From the evidence provided, there were only 1 or 2 people complaining about this. That is not a lot if you ask me. They also mention how one of Vincent's designs was based on Adam Sandler, and how Reese states,
I'm sorry for being insane, but I had canon human Vincent as looking like Adam Sandler.
And that him being designed based on Adam Sandler is the sole reason for the character being Jewish. I don't know what to say about this. I can't objectively state whether or not this is anti-Semitic, because I literally do not know. I don't understand how it would be, I guess, and I can't lie. I think if they had made the character based on Adam Sandler Jewish, they would have also called that anti-Semitic, but that's a baseless claim. The document also makes note of the fact that in the future of Bluey Capsules, Vincent was going to be the president.
They were going to make their Jewish man a president whose word is law, with no middleman or typical assistance from the rest of the cabinet like every other president in history. This falls into the anti-Semitic mindset of Jewish people control the world.
A later edit of this document also states,
the original proposal was done before it was decided that Vincent would be Jewish. Nevertheless, the plotline was not changed and therefore still qualifies as reinforcing the stereotype.
Does it really reinforce that stereotype, though? Reese wanted to make Vincent the president because it would be funny if Vincent, this low-life insane guy, was president. As my friend eloquently states.
Okay, so they just said that there is no system of checks and balances, which is funny and meant to be funny, not like a fucking warning to be like, this is what happens when you have a Jewish president. Also, literally, he wasn't Jewish at that point, so every complaint you have about him being a stereotype is moot.
I don't really understand why they're putting such tight restrictions on a character who happens to be Jewish. Jewish characters can be silly and have silly plotlines as well. This was obviously not done out of malice to state that Jewish people control the world. It feels more anti-Semitic to come to that conclusion rather than just allow ridiculous things to happen in a comic where ridiculous things happen that also happen to include Jewish people. He would literally make the world a better place. He has my vote. The call-out goes on to their next point about homophobia and MLM fetishization. I don't really see it. And Daveville isn't an inherently evil ship that some people and the call-out document makes it out to be. Though the document does not explicitly state that Daveville is bad, it does bring up how Reese didn't care about Daveville and also showed some random screenshots from the comic that are interpreted to be Daveville. Which, I don't know why else you would bring that up in a call-out document unless you see something wrong with it. Which there isn't. I completely disagree. They're both consenting adults, and it is at worst toxic, which to me is not an issue considering that it's fictional characters. Speaking of, being a fan of Bluey Capsules at the height of its popularity was miserable, because I shipped Daveville, and it was literally hinted at in the webcomic, but everyone else thought it was the most evil ship ever, so I had to hide in shame. But now, I'm proud of my toxic yaoi tendencies. Their next point, which is going to be the last thing I'm talking about, is racism and anti-blackness. Before I begin, I should be very, very clear. I am not black. I'm about as white as they fucking come. So I'm not going to go very in-depth in this section, because there's only really one thing I want to talk about. Again, we're going to be talking about Vincent. I know, I'm a broken record. Rebornica's character, Vincent, is, as a human, black. The creators knew about this since the beginning of the creation of their comic. However, for the majority of Rebornica's comic, he's purple. He's generally never drawn as a human, and in the beginning of the Bluey Capsules comic, he was also purple, but for some reason they'd made a decision to make him more human-like and make him white. Why make this decision when the boyfriend of this character is a literal phone head? I don't know. They should have just kept him purple. Though I would like to mention how Bluey Capsules Vincent was a completely separate character from Rebornica's Vincent, and it feels less like whitewashing due to the fact, especially considering he was, in the Bluey Capsules comic, William Afton's twin brother, and the character Vincent is based on the purple guy, or William Afton, and he is also confirmed to be white. Though I do believe this is something that could have been easily negated by keeping the character purple. I believe this wasn't done maliciously. I don't feel strongly about this though. If he was black, nothing in the story would have changed, and it would be better in the long run if they just kept him canon compliant. He's just a vague representation of a nostalgic character. A lot about him has changed in the comic, but if you're going to take someone else's character, maybe keep their race. Also, this is seriously the last thing. The call-out document mentions how multiple members of the team were uncomfortable with the explicit gore. It's Five Nights at Freddy's. That kind of comes with the territory. Don't put yourself in situations where you know you're going to be uncomfortable in. Like when you're uncomfortable with gore and child gore, when the entire canonical Five Nights at Freddy's plot revolves around many dead children. The depiction of gore and child gore in art is not illegal and not an issue. Creators of movies, comics, TV shows, etc. do not have to revolve their work around you and your sensibilities. They put trigger warnings. That's all they need to do. Not remove aspects of the work because you in specific find it uncomfortable. I hope you find this video and my new sprites epic. The callout document and link to the Bluey Capsules Twitter page will be in the description. And if you think I'm wrong, misinterpreted information, or some of my information was incorrect, please let me frickin' know. I'm not the tell-all and you should come to your own informed opinion about the information available.
Bye-bye!